Hey movie buffs, I hope you're having a good day. The story and legacy of Alien 3 is of course infamous. In 1992, young director David Fincher took on a project that to this day divides the fanbase. Let's take an in-depth look back at a movie that is fascinating to talk about, but at the same time might have actually doomed the franchise forever. This is the story of Alien 3.
We're all gonna die. The only question is when. This is as good a place as any to take your first steps to heaven. The only question is how you check out. Do you want it on your feet? Or on your fucking knees? Begging. I ain't much for begging. Nobody ever gave me nothing. So I say, fuck that thing. Let's fight it.
Following the huge success of Aliens, 20th Century Fox were putting pressure on Brandywine Productions to make a third installment. Brandywine were not keen to repeat themselves and wanted to take the story in a completely different direction, hoping to focus on the idea of corporations intent on using the aliens as biological weapons. One of the early concepts was an idea that would have actually drawn out across an Alien 3 and 4, with Michael Biehn's Corporal Hicks returning as the main character in Alien 3, with Ripley only having a cameo. The idea involved Hicks and a group of humans facing off with the corporation. Ripley would then return for the fourth movie, for an epic battle with the aliens that had been bred to be warriors. Sigourney Weaver was happy with the idea of a smaller role and a bigger one in Alien 4, saying she felt Ripley could actually become a burden to the story, remarking there are only so many things you can do with that character. 20th Century Fox agreed to finance the story, but were very keen that Brandywine twisted the arm of the director of the original Alien, Ridley Scott, to head the project. Scott was actually open to returning to the world of Alien, but his schedule didn't allow for it, and the idea of him returning was thrown out. David Giler and Walter Hill of Brandywine approached William Gibson to pen the script. The director of Nightmare on Elm Street 4, Renny Harlin, was offered the directing chair after they were impressed by his work on that film. Harlin brought in some far-reaching ideas to the story of Alien 3, wanting to both visit the aliens' homeworld and have the aliens invade Earth. Gibson's script picked up straight after Alien, with the Sulaco ending up in an area of space named the Union of Progressive Peoples. Ripley is left in a coma while Hicks explores the space station he is taken to, and discovers the Weyland-Yutani Corporation are attempting to develop an alien army. The Union of Progressive People make a point to repair Bishop, and the aliens of course attack, and events culminate on a cliffhanger with Hicks and Bishop and a group of survivors deciding to track the aliens to their home planet and attempt to wipe them out forever. Sadly, the script never made it to screen, with the producers believing it didn't take enough risks and was too similar to the first two films. It kept the main character in a coma and completely shifted the focus to another character. How's that too similar? Gibson's script has gone on to become iconic among What If media, and fans basically willed into existence a comic series based on his script, and recently a novelization written by Pat Cadigan. After showing Gibson the door, screenwriter Eric Red, who wrote the overlooked horrors The Hitcher and Near Dark, was given the task of coming up with something completely different. However, Red himself was ashamed of what he came up with, going on to call it in his own words, utter crap. He had attempted to be far too ambitious, bringing in an entirely new set of characters and subplots and wanting to explore new breeds of the alien. The movie would have opened with a team of special forces discovering that Ripley and her friends on the Sulaco were dead, and then the alien would go on to follow these new characters and target them. Brandywine rejected the script, believing it would be far too jarring of an idea to basically reboot from scratch. Desperate to find the right person for the job, Brandywine next approached David Twohy, giving him the starting point of Gibson's script and asking him to expand. Twohy was the one who came up with what eventually would be the setting of Alien 3, a prison planet. In his version, the planet was being utilised for illegal experiments on the aliens for a biological warfare division. Renny Harlin was frustrated with this idea and was growing tired of the lack of progress with the script and cut ties with the project. Fox were more accommodating to Twohy's script, but were very keen to get Sigourney Weaver back on board, calling her the centrepiece of the series. Weaver was offered $4 million to return and a share of the box office receipts. Weaver came with her own set of demands. She needed a very appealing script that was original, no longer wanted to focus on guns, and she wanted to kill off Ripley. Twohy swiftly took action to write Ripley into his screenplay, and it appeared Alien 3 was finally off the ground when director Vincent Ward replaced Harlan. However, Ward immediately made it known that he was not a fan of Twohy's script and started thinking up an idea where Ripley's escape pod crash lands on a monastery-like satellite. Ward took his idea to the studio and they approved it, and Twohy left the project in frustration that all this was done behind his back. We were now on to Ward's vision for Alien 3. He imagined the planet with an interior that was wooden and archaic, with Luddites-like monks living in it. Ripley arrives and throws the monks for a loop as they end up believing she has landed on the planet to test them with sexual temptation. When Ripley warns them about the alien, the monks end up capturing her and locking her in a dungeon, believing her and the alien to be part of the same curse, with the alien being the devil. Brandywine dragged their heels, saying that logical problems of creating and maintaining a wooden planet in space was a big issue for them, and the studio weren't keen too, describing the script as being on the artsy-fartsy side. Ward was eventually fired for standing passionately behind the script and not wanting to deviate. This idea for Alien 3 has gone on to fascinate fans, with many believing at the very least it could have been visually stunning and memorable, and the action and chase sequence could have been incredibly effective and unique on a wooden planet. Weaver herself was a big fan of it, calling the script original and arresting. Hill and Giler were back at square one, and feeling creatively drained, they brought another screenwriter on board in Larry Ferguson for one last shot at Alien 3. Giler and Hill went on to be very actively involved in this script and decided to combine aspects of the Wooden Planet script with Twohy's earlier Prison Planet suggestion. Finally, Hill and Giler needed a new director and decided to take a chance on music video director David Fincher. Fincher grabbed the opportunity with both hands and became hands-on with the screenplay, revising a lot of what was there but reaching a compromise with Brandywine. A very prominent plot point from the Twohy and Ward scripts that remained was the demise of fellow survivors Corporal Hicks, Newt and the android Bishop. This decision went on to haunt this film, as no matter what the ideas were, or even if the film was good in lots of people's eyes, most Alien fans could never forgive the idea of getting rid of two incredibly likeable characters who had been through so much and deserved better than to just be discarded right at the start like they did not even matter.
It's a shame that what I call the likability, a like story, that's what I used to call it, between her and I think could have developed in a third one. And then I think maybe I could have been killed off in the third one or something, where she really does fall for Hicks even more. I mean, you don't have to do that much more. There were only a couple little scenes in Aliens to get that kind of attraction that we had for each other. And you could just do a little bit more of that in Aliens 3, and then kill me off.
Fincher went about casting his Prison Planet by hiring some well-respected British actors, such as Charles Dance, who was cast as the prison's doctor, Jonathan Clemens. Brian Glover, an actor with many credits including An American Werewolf in London, and the British anarchic sitcom Bottom, and even, believe it or not, a pro wrestling career to his name, was selected to play Harold Andrews, the prison warden. None other than Doctor Who himself, Paul McGann, landed the role of Walter Golik, an outcast in the prison who ends up becoming obsessed with the alien, which leads to his doom. It was not just a film for the Brits, however, as Charles Dutton bagged the role of Leonard Dillon, an inmate who has taken on the duty of spiritual leader among the prisoners, who believes in redemption and keeping peace in the facility. Filming for Alien 3 began with a wide-eyed Fincher attacking the project with the script unfinished, and nearly $7 million already sunk into it. The movie was shot at Pinewood Studios, with some scenes shot at Blythe Power Station and a beach near Dowden in the UK to show the exterior of the planet. This really was a British affair, wasn't it? But to be perfectly honest, when you look into a lot of films, Britain is a very popular place to shoot movies, especially sci-fi. Fincher was trying his best on shaky ground with a real sense of unpredictability running throughout the project. Second guessing himself, Fincher apparently filmed several scenes that weren't used, including an alternate ending, which eliminated Ripley's ultimate sacrifice, as he feared it was too similar to the ending of Terminator 2, which had been released the previous year. Sigourney Weaver stood by the original ending, however, and really believed in it, so it stuck. At the young age of 27, Fincher was overwhelmed by the project, having constant run-ins with Fox and suffering a lot of frustration due to the uncertainty and mismanagement of the whole project by the studio.
It's amazing to me that Fox is the #1 studio in the country because they're all such a bunch of morons.
This time the creature effects were done by Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alex Gillis, two former colleagues of Stan Winston who had their own company called Amalgamated Dynamics. The movie was the first to bring in that dreaded CGI for several shots. More on that later. Fincher said of the alien he wanted it to be more animalistic as opposed to the humanoid style of the first two films. The designer of the original Alien, H.R. Giger, returned to the series and revised the design of the alien, adding longer, thinner legs, removal of pipes around the spine, and a sharper alien tongue in place of the secondary jaws. Not much of his redesign actually made it into the final film, but the alien walking on all fours with long legs remained. Tom Woodruff Jr. decided to portray the alien himself and climbed into the suit and a rod puppet, which is a type of puppet that is controlled by the hands that occupies the interior of the model. This time, an entirely different approach was used to present the alien on screen, and the puppet was filmed against blue screen and optically composited into the live action footage, with the rods of the puppet eliminated by rotoscoping. A mechanical head was used for the close-ups of the alien, and Woodruff walked on all fours in the suit, and his head was contained in the neck of the suit because the head was actually filled with animatronics to move the mouth of the creature. Fincher's whole ambition for this new alien was speed, 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 so the crew were pushed to make the movements of the alien as quick as possible, to the point where they were at times barely even in control, creating a sense of believability of this alien as an out-of-control, fast-paced predator. The film was subject to chaotic reshoots, and it ultimately was all too much for David Fincher, as he described the experience as agonizing, and eventually, believe it or not, walked out. The movie was completed by the studio, who decided to drastically edit the film down, removing several scenes. Incredibly, the movie's ending scene was still being edited just a mere 3 weeks before Alien 3 was due to be released in the United States. Oh my god, what a mess. Much of this removed material went on to be featured in the film's eventual assembly cut, which we will talk about later in this video. Alien 3 was released in the US on May 22, 1992, debuting at number 2 in the box office, losing out to Lethal Weapon 3. Its first weekend grossed $23.1 million, and it was considered a flop in North America with a total of $55.4 million, although it did a whole lot better in Europe, netting a total of $104.3 million, with a worldwide total of $158.7 million. Ultimately, Alien 3 is the second highest earning Alien film, excluding inflation, and it had the 28th highest domestic gross in 1992. Critics weren't especially kind to Alien 3, with beloved movie critics Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert both giving Alien 3 a thumbs down, calling it repetitious, drawn out, and lacking suspense. Ebert gave Alien 3 a sort of compliment and an insult at the same time, calling it one of the best looking bad movies he had ever seen. David Fincher himself disowned the film, distancing himself from it at every turn, and saying no one hated the film as much as him. Fast forward to December 2003, and a new version of Alien 3 was released as part of the Alien Quadrilogy DVD box set. The special edition of the film, known as the Assembly Cut, was created without any involvement of David Fincher, who had declined. The cut was put together by set producer Charles de Lauzirika and included over 30 minutes of extended, alternate and previously deleted scenes. The Assembly Cut went on to rescue Alien 3 in a lot of ways, as many fans have heralded this version and view it as a far superior film. Critics have praised it too, with critic Nick Shager calling it fantastic and fascinating, and another critic, Tim Brayton, describing it as more fleeting and driven despite it being 30 minutes longer. So in this video, when reviewing the film, I'll be looking at the theatrical cut first, and we'll follow that up with a look at all the differences in the Assembly Cut and discuss whether I believe it to be a stronger version of Alien 3. So let's take a look. I'll be honest, I never really saw the previous two Alien movies as nihilistic films. I never got that feeling. I always felt like, despite it being this awful and life-threatening situation, there was always a sense of hope under the surface. With Alien 3, they literally just said, nah, fuck it, forget that. This movie's going to be hardcore misery. Alien 3 is one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen, and I used to despise it for that reason, but in recent years I've come around to at least appreciate what David Fincher and everyone else was going for. It really is an honest depiction of nihilism, desolation, isolation. It's a culmination of the terror that Ripley has experienced. I can respect Alien 3 for fully committing to that, because in both the theatrical and assembly cut there is a real mood, an atmosphere, a sense of operatic sadness that is created. And I respect what they came up with because it's entirely unique in the series. It took a risk and changed the vibe of the franchise. Again, I wouldn't have took this route myself, and I'm still not the biggest fan in the world of Alien 3. The main argument against the film, and it's still the one I struggle to get past to be honest, is the fact that everything Ripley went through in Aliens was kind of pointless, and that really bothers me. This is probably the core issue that prevents me from really committing to liking Alien 3, because there was so much emotional investment built up in Aliens with that relationship between Ripley and Newt, and to a smaller degree but still very important, the relationship between Ripley and Hicks and Ripley and Bishop. Ripley went back for Newt and engaged in one of the best third acts in movie history. That scene where she fights the alien queen for Newt is literally movie magic, and is really Ripley fighting to at least gain some positivity out of this. She deserved a daughter in Newt, and Newt deserved a mother. That feeling is so strong in Aliens. They deserved each other. Then Alien 3's just like, screw that, we're just gonna go hardcore. Bye Newt, bye Hicks, they are fucking dead. Fucking gone, mate. Deal with it. Oh, you were invested? Fuck you. It's over. This movie is hell now. Live with it. It's more just how jarring and in your face it is, and kind of needless to be honest. You didn't really need to do this. You could have still had a super downbeat film, and Ripley again become isolated, and still have what she went through in Aliens actually mean something. You could remove Newt from the film in another way. Maybe she gets rescued, or maybe someone else looks after her. If the idea is you want Ripley alone again, you could still do that without disrespecting what happened in the last film. It could have easily been done. I find myself sat here asking myself, what gain is there in this film to just have a child die at the start? It's like a cheap way to create this horrible atmosphere. If you can't create that feeling with everything else and you have to resort to a child dying randomly, that's not a good sign. And to be fair, they do create a horrific, nihilistic, depressing feeling with all the other elements, so they didn't even really need to kill Hicks and Newt. It was just cheap and misguided. Ripley ends up on a planet of the worst, and that's again another issue with the movie. Every character is a horrible person, so you don't care about anyone. It's a different approach, and I think with Alien 3, you're not supposed to root for people, other than Ripley of course. It's more of a film about being immersed and confronting the darkness of the human soul, right in front of you on screen. It's not the same as the first two films. At this point, Ripley has been through so much terror that this film basically says there's now nothing left, and you're going to see that on screen. The end of Ripley's journey will be surrounded by bad people with nothing left. This is what it's come to. This is the end of her journey. There is no happy ending. It's a complete switch from what usually happens in films, and I do enjoy that bravery, and it's done well on screen, but as someone who likes to get invested in characters, it's a bit of a struggle at times. However, one or two of the characters you can at least enjoy, such as Leonard Dillon, who is a great character. Charles Dutton really delivers as this inmate who is the spiritual leader of the prison, looking to lead the inmates on a path of redemption. His performance is fantastic. The conviction in his voice and the regret on his face really comes through. He genuinely is now a man of faith, and he truly wants to redeem himself, but he is well aware of the horror he is living in and how unforgivable, including him, these men are, and he grapples with that. Despite his tough exterior, Dillon is also a man with a great sense of compassion, which he has built from a deep understanding of the pain he caused in his past mistakes. He actually honestly cares about the inmates, and he shows genuine concern for Ripley's well-being, and is ultimately willing to put himself in harm's way to protect her, and this gives him a depth of character and a sense of emotional empathy.
I don't want no more bullshit around here. And we got problems, we stand together.
Yes.
It's a great nuanced performance about the idea of whether someone who has done horrific actions can be forgiven, and I think Dillon shows that it is possible, because no one hates what he has done more than himself, kind of like David Fincher with this film. There is a real religious theme running through Alien 3, and that's indeed one of the stronger ideas of the film. The idea of whether people are too far gone, or if life is still worth living or saving. And I think inserting that idea in a film about an alien going around picking people off is quite interesting. It's like the alien is the final Grim Reaper. The judgment day for these men is there to let them know time is up, Or is the alien itself the one thing that allows these men to actually reach forgiveness? If they can defeat this threat of evil, will they finally learn their redemption? Another good performance is Charles Dance as Jonathan Clemens, the doctor of the prison. There's a few more scenes of him in the assembly cut, which is good, because in the theatrical you end up wanting more of him. First off, Charles Dance is just a good actor, and he's very guarded in the role. We're left wondering what crime he is holding close to his chest, and why he is among the lowest of the low. Ripley and his relationship literally only lasts a few scenes, but it's strangely charming. The actors do very well, but I think these characters really gel well together. I think this relationship shows the goodness of Ripley, that she's willing to believe this man is good after all she's been through. And I think the character of Clemens is a great example of the grey area this film is trying to discuss. Clemens was sadly responsible for the deaths of 11 men by prescribing the wrong painkiller dosage. He is continually mentally torturing himself for this, but Ripley gives him some empathy despite his crime, and this perhaps restores his faith in himself. Ripley's the only woman among a group of hardened male convicts, and Clemens is a lost soul, still struggling to find his peace, forgiveness and place in the world. They both understand what it's like to be marginalised and misunderstood, and they bond over their shared experiences. Of course, in Alien and Aliens we had some truly stunning practical effects which, by Alien 3, were replaced with the lovely CGI that was about to take hold of movies. To be fair, the movie was released in 1992 and CGI was still in its infancy. However, in moments the alien still looks clunky and unrealistic compared to what came before. The alien sadly looks more like a cartoon character than a terrifying creature from another planet. The movements are jerky and unnatural, and a lot of the spectre was lost from the first two films. It's hard to take the alien serious in the movie when it looks so fake in certain moments. It's a shame because there are one or two moments in the movie that are genuinely unsettling with the alien, and it would have been fantastic if it looked good all the way through. One of these is the image the movie is known for when the alien goes face to face with Ripley. This is a very memorable shot and an example of Fincher bringing his own style to the movie that could be just as impactful as the two iconic directors that came before, just in a different way. And the actual look of the alien, I actually really like the whole animalistic style, the fact it looks more like a jungle predator in this movie. Fincher was more about the morbid, in-your-face aggression of the alien, and he has a few shots that were just as good as any veteran filmmaker could do, and they were creative and showed Fincher would go on to do great things. I do admire the interesting new ways Fincher decides to show the alien, such as the POV moments. This is the first time in a series we see through the alien's eyes, and you would think this would take you out of the movie because obviously Alien and Aliens were always about the human perspective, and you never knew where the alien was. Fincher decides to take a risk and let us see a few shots from the alien's POV, and for me it gives a whole new appreciation for the danger of the alien, because you get to experience its speed, its desire to hunt, and its capabilities. Instead of identifying with the alien, we instead grow an extra level of fear for it because we get to see firsthand how screwed we would be if it was after us. That was something cool about the new Alien. It's just a shame that it didn't fully deliver in every scene. Sigourney Weaver is doing her best as Ripley. I don't think she knows what she wants to do with this. I feel like they just thought culmination, and that was the word they went with not much elaboration. The story of Ripley confronting her destiny and having to engage in the ultimate sacrifice. But there's no real shock or awe to Ripley making the ultimate sacrifice, because from minute one, the film is depressing. There's no surprise that Ripley is going to die, because, well, everyone else has, and we're just in this horrid situation for 2 hours. There's zero optimism or getting behind Ripley, because it's so predictable that things are going to end badly for her. So when Ripley's death scene rolls around, yes, it feels like a culmination, but not really one of Ripley's journey, more the film's journey of hopelessness. The film doesn't really benefit from having Ripley in it, which is entirely a departure from Alien and Aliens, where she is by far one of the strongest parts. Here, she just has a look on her face from the first moment you see her that's just like, kill me now, end it, I've had enough of this shit, I'm getting too old for this shit, as Danny Glover said, just pull the plug. And that wasn't Ripley. Ripley always believed in good and always had some optimism left in her. To see it completely gone just makes it not really Ripley. The image of Ripley falling into the flames has always stuck with me, and I think it could easily have been one of the best scenes in the franchise, And I think that might be the main issue with Alien 3, despite there being some interesting ideas and scenes and shots. The fact that you feel nothing is unforgivable. The scene looks cool, it's a good idea, but you don't feel anything because you kind of felt nothing for Ripley the entire movie. Even on a planet of evil men, you feel nothing. She's lost who she was, and there's no heart to her character anymore. I think it comes back to killing Hicks and Newt. You've robbed Ripley of her victories, her friends, her family, her hope, and you've given us nothing in their place. Just Ripley basically wanting to die for the whole film. I think you guys are slowly realising I really am conflicted on Alien 3. Some days I'm really fascinated and open to it. Sometimes I watch it and I'm just like, this is such a bummer. But of course, there's another version of Alien 3, so let's talk about the extended assembly cut and see if it fixes any of the issues with the theatrically released version. One of the best things about the assembly cut is the film gets to breathe more, and the atmosphere and ideas are given more time to sink in. Of course, if you're already not into these ideas, seeing more of them might not be a good thing. For me, even though I'm not keen on the ideas, as a film I appreciate seeing something given time to unfold. I am a big fan of a slow build and a large-scale operatic sci-fi atmosphere, even if I'm not keen on the actual script. For example, the opening scene with Clements on this desolate planet discovering Ripley is much stronger than how she's found in the theatrical, and it's a great looking scene. It has more style and scope and has some of the coolest and most memorable visuals in the film. I mean, seeing Ripley all black and charred is much more dramatic and is an image that is ingrained in your mind. I have to admit, there are lots of areas in the assembly cut I have to admire because they're so well made and visually interesting. I didn't really enjoy just seeing the inmates have more scenes. I'm only really a fan of about 3 of them, so for me, seeing these cold-hearted criminals talk about how they would try and flirt with Ripley isn't the best addition in my mind. I didn't need it. However, anything new with Dillon and Clements is great because these characters are very good. I kind of wish the alien picked off the whole ship really early and then it's just these guys and Ripley for the whole film. That would have been so much better. A great scene added involves Clements visiting Andrews in his office. We get a more intense verbal showdown and both actors are on fine form. There's a sense of mystery created which is important to the Clements character, as the question becomes what and how much does he know. Also really enjoyed the haunting scene where the character of Golic is discovered alone in a darkened hall in a bloody mess after releasing the alien. He's become obsessed with it at the expense of his own life. It's a haunting moment and another example of David Fincher's potential to create some really horrific visuals that are just as terrifying but at the same time entirely different to the style used in the first 2 movies. One moment in the assembly cut I would honestly actually change is early on when, after being told about her death, Ripley is asked if Newt is her daughter. She says no. She should have said yes, simple as that. If you're gonna kill Newt, at least give Ripley that. Give us something positive. The idea that Ripley believed, which she had every right to, that she could call herself Newt's mother, just give her that. The fact they don't make her say it bothers me because it's a reflection of Ripley having zero hope from minute 1 in the film. Yes, she isn't Newt's mother and that's the honest answer, but after what Ripley went through in Aliens, she should have said yes. It would have at least softened the blow slightly that Newt is dead. The fact that Ripley doesn't even believe she has the right to call herself her mother frustrates me, because Ripley is dead behind the eyes now, and has none of her original personality. She's just a shell of a person now. An interesting element in the assembly cut that I'm not actually sure how I feel about, I'm 50-50 on it, is the fact that they managed to successfully capture the alien, sealing it away behind a door. Kind of strips the alien of its menace, but at the same time gives a scenario we've never seen in the movies. I kind of like the idea because it turns the tables on the alien, and I think it was time for the humans to get one over at least once. The alien seems more animalistic and ferocious in Alien 3, more of an aggressive predator who you just have to contain. So I think getting it behind closed doors for just a short time created a sense of relief as it gives you a chance to breathe and the characters an opportunity to regroup. And I enjoyed these moments of Ripley trying to plan a strategy with these prisoners with limited weapons. Feels like a fallen army who have been thrown together, don't like each other, and are forced to come up with something quickly while they have the momentary advantage. There's a conversation in the assembly cut between Ripley and Dillon which I absolutely love, where Dillon basically insinuating he doesn't really care if the alien makes its way out there, because to him, that other world doesn't really exist in a way.
We've got our own little world out here. It ain't much, but it's ours. So fuck everybody else.
No. Fuck them.
Ripley's sacrifice is far more impactful in the assembly cut, and we get some pretty riveting back and forth with her and the humanly created Bishop. Lance Henriksen does pretty well because he's no longer Bishop and he's working for a corporation, so like Ripley we have no idea if we can trust him, and the standoff is pretty tense. Ripley's actual descent into the fire is far more built up and deliberated over, which I enjoyed, because in the theatrical cut I honestly felt like she just went fuck it and jumped in. Here there's actually several moments of thinking it over, deep breaths and consideration, so we at least feel a bit more when she decides to go through with it, because there's time for us to be on the edge of our seats and feel the weight of the situation. The assembly cut also shows no chest burster emerge from Ripley, so this death has far more grace, and it's more of a victory for Ripley despite her sacrifice. She's taken the alien with her, she can at least have some solace as she dies. Look, I don't want Ripley to die, but no one can deny the shots of Ripley in this scene are incredibly ingrained in people's minds. No matter the critiques of Alien 3, you think of the Alien franchise and Ripley falling into the flames is just as memorable as really any shot in the previous films. It's like Roger Ebert once said, and I can't remember about what film, but it wasn't Alien 3. The legendary critic said, "I respect what the director did, but I hate it." Bit harsh, but it's kind of the perfect description of mine and many fans' reactions to Alien 3. Maybe not hate. As I said, there's lots I can at least enjoy in the film, and the assembly cut is a lot better. It breathes, it has depth, it's more entertaining. But ultimately, I'm just not keen on the direction that the whole thing went, and I am in no rush to watch either the theatrical or assembly cut again anytime soon. So what do you guys think of Alien 3? Do you prefer the theatrical or the assembly cut? Do you think I've been too harsh on the movie, or have I been too nice? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe for analysis and breakdowns on new movies and in-depth retrospectives on the classics. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.